unnecessary things in life and choose what is only best.
All around the world, wherever there are people in need, Tzu Chi volunteers will be there to help. Be that a lone Syrian refugee's journey to Europe, in the aftermath of an earthquake in Nepal, or in a town wiped out by the typhoon in the Philippines. Tzu Chi volunteers give, not for the sake of publicity, but for their firm faith in giving as one's responsibility. As of 2018, Tzu Chi had brought aid to more than 90 countries and regions around the world. Whenever a disaster strikes, as long as there's a way, Tzu Chi volunteers will do all they can to help. In 2003, Tzu Chi became an NGO under the United Nations umbrella. In 2008, it became the first overseas NGO allowed to register in China. In 2010, the UN Economic and Social Council granted special consultative status to Tzu Chi. Founded in 1966 by Dharma Master Cheng Yen, Tzu Chi has now become a synonym for love and goodness to many people around the globe. The story of Tzu Chi started from the small wooden cabin. Right from its humble beginnings, Master Cheng Yen has been encouraging her followers to save up a little every day to help the needy. The Master believes that everyone, rich or poor, is capable of giving. By pulling together everyone's savings, Tzu Chi has been able to help many people in need. In recent years, seeing how disasters occur more frequently with greater intensity, Master Cheng Yen is very worried. Disasters originate from the mind. To help bring peace to restless minds, as long as the Master is at her abode, no matter how weary she is, before dawn every day, she'll expound Buddhist teachings to share true principles with everyone. The Master's Dhamma talks and words of wisdom have been recorded by her disciples word by word, carefully proofread time and again, and then compiled into one book after another. These books have enlightened people in despair, awakened those serving time in prison, mended numerous broken families, and inspired many people to do good. However, rather than acclaiming Master Cheng Yen as a great author of modern times, it will be more appropriate to say that she is a religious leader of great compassion. Publishing books is just a way to reach out to more people. Master Cheng Yen's first book, Jing Si Aphorisms, was published in 1989. Concise yet profound, the aphorisms are the Master's words compiled from her speeches and dialogues with her disciples and visitors. The aphorisms have been translated into 18 languages and are beloved by people around the world. For the young generations, Master Cheng Yen has also composed a series of books, including The Promise of Spring, An Honest Merchant, Sowing the Seeds of a Good Life, and so on, all of which contain her gentle yet earnest reminders for young people. Concerned about climate change and the environment, the Master has authored Cleaner Mind, Cleaner Environment, The Power of the Mind, Living in Harmony with the Earth, and more. Almost every season, a new book by Master Cheng Yen will be published. Tzu Chi members study her books together and share their thoughts with one another. Through reading Master Cheng Yen's books, they are able to gain correct views and find answers to their questions about life and the world. Guided by Master Cheng Yen, Tzu Chi is the Buddhist Foundation, a non-governmental organization and also a spiritual cultivation group. For half a century, Tzu Chi members have been following Master Cheng Yen's teachings and her footsteps of compassion to serve humanity. In recognition of Tzu Chi's contributions to the world, since 1993, 8 universities in Taiwan and abroad have granted honorary doctorate in social science, social welfare, humanities, and so on to Master Cheng Yan. However, she always credits the honor and glory to all Tzu Chi members worldwide. For decades, people around the world have witnessed and moved by Tzu Chi volunteers' selfless giving and altruistic acts of kindness. Through giving, the volunteers have also come to realize that only actions based on compassion, love, and wisdom can truly touch people's hearts.
Since 1994, Tzu Chi Philippines has brought compassion and relief through its various humanitarian programs. For almost 3 decades now, we have been serving underprivileged Filipinos through social services, medical care, education, and humanitarian aid. Founded in Taiwan by Buddhist nun Master Cheng Yan, the work of Tzu Chi is a mission of love to relieve the suffering of those in need and create a better world for all. The foundation is operated by a worldwide network of volunteers and employees and has been awarded a special consultative status at the United Nations Economic and Social Council. The Tzu Chi Philippines office opened in 1994 when Filipino-Chinese volunteers launched disaster relief efforts following the 7.1 magnitude Mindoro earthquake. The very first volunteers in the Philippines were Chinese Filipino civilians and doctors on charity missions who brought food and medical aid to remote and ravaged islands. To this day, we continue our charity work supporting thousands of indigents with monthly allowance and medicine. Tzu Chi has become renowned for disaster relief work, immediately on the ground to help those displaced by fires, storms, earthquakes, armed conflict, and other catastrophes. In 2009, on the heels of Typhoon Kitsana, locally known as Indoy, which claimed over 700 lives and caused over $1 billion worth of damages, we launched our first large-scale cleanup effort with a Cash for Work program. Survivors and residents were recruited for cleanup operations, receiving 400 pesos a day. This served as a boost to the economy and helped the community get back on its feet. When Super Typhoon Yolanda, one of the world's most powerful storms, struck the Philippines in November 2013, an army of Tzu Chi volunteers from around the world traveled to Leyte to deliver aid and relief. With global fundraising efforts, Tzu Chi contributed 3.2 billion pesos for Yolanda disaster relief. In 2014, Tzu Chi put up temporary homes for survivors in Palo and Ormoc. When the COVID-19 pandemic forced lockdowns in March 2020, Tzu Chi donated PPEs, face masks, face shields, and other medical supplies and equipment to government and private hospitals all over the Philippines. In 2021, Tzu Chi lent out oxygen concentrators to individuals in need and donated 108 high-flow nasal oxygen machines to 32 hospitals nationwide. Throughout the pandemic, we donated more than 1 million kilos of rice and other household needs to thousands of displaced workers such as jeepney and tricycle drivers, as well as scavengers and PWDs. Moreover, Tzu Chi responded to victims of Typhoon Rolly and Ulysses in 2020 and Typhoon Odette in 2021 by providing cash relief, rice, and other essential needs. The Spirit of Love also built the 4.5 hectares of Buddhist Tzu Chi campus in Santa Mesa, Manila, which houses facilities for its various activities and offers free optical services through the Tzu Chi Eye Center. Education is another cornerstone of Tzu Chi's mission of love. We provide scholarships to over 600 scholars each year and free technical vocational courses to indigents. Tzu Chi also does work in the field of environmental protection, promoting ways we can reduce our impact on the planet. From environmental protection to medical missions, disaster relief, and educational programs, we at Tucci are dedicated to relieving suffering with compassion. Tucci needs your constant support to continue our mission of love, made possible by volunteers who give their all to ensure that all human beings, regardless of race, religion, color, and age, have food and water, medicines to keep them healthy, and a sense of dignity. Your support makes a world of difference to keep our critical mission going. As Master Cheng Yen says, with love, we can make all the difference in the world.
The international humanitarian organization Tzu Chi Foundation was established in 1966 in Taiwan by Buddhist nun Master Cheng Yen. Over the years, Tzu Chi has brought compassion and relief, the very meaning of its name, through social services, medical care, education, and humanitarian aid to the underprivileged around the world. The first 30 members of Tzu Chi were housewives who saved the equivalent of about 5 centavos at the time from their grocery money each day to help the poor. The foundation has since grown to over 10 million members in 58 countries with over 500 offices worldwide. It's operated by a worldwide network of volunteers and employees and has been awarded a special consultative status at the United Nations Economic and Social Council. The Tzu Chi Philippines office opened in 1994 when Filipino-Chinese volunteers launched disaster relief efforts following the 7.1 magnitude Mindoro earthquake. The very first Tzu Chi volunteers in the Philippines were civilians and doctors on charity missions who brought food and medical aid to remote and ravaged islands. To this day, Tzu Chi continues its charity work, supporting more than 600 indigents with monthly allowance and medicine. Tzu Chi has become renowned for disaster relief work, immediately on the ground to help those displaced by fires, storms, earthquakes, armed conflict, and other catastrophes. In 2009, on the heels of Typhoon Ketsana, locally known as Ondoy, which claimed over 700 lives and caused over 1 billion pesos worth of damages, Tzu Chi launched their first large-scale cleanup effort with a Cash for Work program. Survivors and residents of severely affected areas were recruited for cleanup operations, receiving 400 pesos a day. This served as a boost to the economy and helped the community get back on its feet. When Super Typhoon Yolanda, one of the world's most powerful storms, struck the Philippines in November 2013, an army of Tzu Chi volunteers from around the world traveled to Leyte to deliver aid and relief to victims of the worst natural calamity to hit the Philippines. With global fundraising efforts, Tzu Chi contributed 2.8 billion pesos for Yolanda disaster relief. In 2014, the mayors of Palo and Ormoc, among the most affected areas, donated land to Tzu Chi to put up temporary homes for survivors. The Tzu Chi Great Love Village in Barangay San Jose, Palo, Leyte is home to over 200 families. By growing vegetables, baking bread, and making bags, they're able to earn a living. Most important of all, they've moved on from their tragic losses and found a deeper appreciation for life and learned to dream again. This spirit of love also built the 4.5-hectare Tzu Chi Great Love Complex, which offers free services for optical and dental procedures. The eye center treats cataracts and retinal detachment and performs corneal transplants. The dental clinic provides free dentures and holds weekly mobile clinics. Education is another cornerstone of Tzu Chi's mission of love. Their educational programs provide scholarships to over 600 scholars each year and free technical vocational courses to indigents. Tzu Chi ensures schools are given immediate attention after natural disasters. Following Typhoon Raming, internationally known as Durian, that hit Bicol in 2006, Tzu Chi rebuilt Tabaco National High School. After Typhoon Pablo, internationally known as BOFA, pummeled southern and central Philippines in 2012, Tzu Chi rebuilt Mangayon Elementary School in Compostela Valley. Tzu Chi also does work in the field of environmental protection, promoting ways we can reduce our impact on the planet. From environmental protection to medical missions, disaster relief, and educational programs, Tzu Chi is dedicated to relieving suffering with compassion. Tzu Chi needs constant support to continue its mission of love, made possible by volunteers who give their all to ensure that all human beings, regardless of race, religion, color, age, have food and water, medicines to keep them healthy, and a sense of dignity. Every bit of support makes a world of difference to keep this critical mission going. Some Tzu Chi beneficiaries have even taken the initiative to donate the little they can to help others. As Master Cheng Yen says, with love, we can make all the difference in the world.
In the stillness of dawn, where the first rays of sunlight touch the earth, a quiet revolution of the spirit began. It started over 85 years ago in India, a movement dedicated to the profound transformation of the self and the world. Brahma Kumaris was founded by Dadalat Raj Kirpalani in 1937 in Hyderabad. His spiritual name is Prajapita Brahma, and he is lovingly called Brahma Baba. After experiencing a series of visions in 1936, he was inspired to create a school where the principles and practices of a virtuous and meditative life could be taught. It consisted of a handful of men, women, and children, many of whom decided to stay together as a community. In 1950, the group moved to its present location in Mount Abu, India. Through the years, it has become a self-sufficient community devoting their time to intense spiritual study, meditation, and self-transformation. The journey of Brahma Kumaris to the Philippines began at the Brahma Kumaris Center in San Francisco. It was in 1983, and Marge Enriquez, a young Filipino dance student, found herself far from home, searching for something deeper to fill the void in her heart.
There was this ad
about a yogi sitting on the lotus with the rays, under the rays of the sun. And the sign said, peace, purity, and prosperity. Remove your bad habits forever. Free of charge. That seemed like a miracle. So I called up and I asked, do you have a discipline that has mind-body connection? And the person who answered said, we believe that if you can control the mind, the body will follow. And so I took up the 7 days course in Raja Yoga meditation, and I liked it because they teach you how to be aware of yourself. And the second thing, what I really loved, was that you have a relationship with God. He's someone who's so real. You have a relationship with Him like any intimate friend. And so, for me, God became my companion. In the past, my companion was misery and stress. Now my companion has been God.
With the encouragement of her meditation teacher, Sister Chandru Desai, this transformative experience sparked a flame in Marge's heart, a desire to bring Raja Yoga to her homeland. In 1985, the Brahma Kumaris Spiritual Foundation was registered and established in the Philippines. It welcomed people from all walks of life, religion, race, or creed. Through meditation, the center helps people rediscover goodness from within and encourages the development of spiritual awareness, attitude, and behavior. In 1986, the UN International Year of Peace, the institution launched the Million Minutes of Peace Appeal, which reached 88 countries, including the Philippines. As a result of this appeal, Brahma Kumaris received 7 UN Peace Messenger Awards. Brahma Kumaris offers a framework for a life-changing experience by exploring and discovering the most fundamental question: who am I? It is done by becoming adept in 4 areas of study: the study of spiritual knowledge, the practice of Raja Yoga meditation, the conscious assimilation of virtues, and serving others spiritually.
Who am I? What is my relationship with God? What is the purpose of my life? These 3 basic questions were rightfully answered readily by the Brahma Kumaris. And when I had a very clear understanding and perception of all these 3 questions, I told myself, this is the life I want. And after 20 years, I'm still with the Brahma Kumaris, and not just only one of the students, but also one of its teachers. When I practiced meditation, the very few instances, I experienced of being detached from my body. And that experience somehow made me feel that being in that point of light and being immersed in that feeling somehow was, to me, very ethereal, meaning out of this world. And so I began to explore meditation, and the more I immersed myself into that experience, the more I revel into the teachings. We are not just material beings. We are also spiritual beings separate from our material body.
I would look back and see that my life is become simple, no longer complicated, and I'm able to give more time for myself. I'm able to remove all the clutters, those unnecessary things in life, and choose what is only best for me.
Knowing that through meditation and connecting with the divine and being a child of God and knowing who God is, you have all the qualities already, but it's within yourself. So every day, meditation for me is an invitation to go inside myself, reconnect, and empower the self, which is the soul.
So we teach Raj Yoga meditation in the Brahma Kumaris. What is it? It is an open-eyed meditation. It's a very simple, very versatile way of connecting with the self, connecting with God. Because connecting with the self means rediscovering yourself. If I get depleted, one way to restore that energy is another connection. And that connection is connection with the highest. That's why it's called Raja Yoga, which means connection. And once I get connected with that highest power, I will be given the inner power to face my own weaknesses and my own shortcomings. And having that power, I would be ready to transform myself.
Om Shanti means I am peace. I am peace. So we want to teach and popularize that peace is not outside. The aim of the Brahma Kumaris is to eliminate the negative and the waste. Because my nature is actually peace. To be able to manage my response or reaction to anger, my perception whether I'm hurt or not is actually mine. I cannot blame anyone that I'm not given something which I think I deserve.
Brahma Kumaris opened all the windows and the doors for me so that I went to take the course, and from that time on up until now, I'm still with Brahma Kumaris and practicing Raja Yoga meditation after 39 years. Raja means king, and that means you become the ruler of your mind. That is how it is. You're ruler of your senses. And yoga means connection. You're able to connect with your deeper or inner self and able to connect with the highest supreme energy, so that through this you're able to make a resolution for yourself to change whatever you want to change in yourself, so that you're able to live a better, fruitful, productive, happier life. There are challenges along the way as I go through life, through work, family relationship, but I felt like I'm able to bounce back easily. And the other thing is I don't harbor any more ill feelings, regret, or anger.
If I can summarize the benefits that I'm experiencing from learning Raja Yoga, I have four main words. First, self-respect. And second, contentment. And third, love. And fourth, purpose. So these are the main keywords I have, the benefits that I have experienced from learning Raja Yoga.
The service which we are offering to society is about women empowerment. We of course teach them also meditation and how to stay in our self-respect and how to keep confidence growing. And children program which we do is values program, courage, honesty, tolerance, power, because as we see the world has so many challenges in life. So we need also children to grow with the courage to face the life.
It helped me see things differently. If there are situations that are happening, like very difficult situations, especially at work, it's understandable that you get affected at times, that you feel hurt, sometimes you get angry. But with Brahma Kumaris, made me reflect on certain things that are happening in my life, the feelings that I'm feeling. It's helped me acknowledge those feelings and how do I get out of it. I feel like being with the Brahma Kumaris when I was young, I feel like I'm very fortunate because with whatever happened in my life, if it wasn't for the teachings of Brahma Kumaris, I would have given up already.
that's what we teach here in Center for Spiritual Learning. We have retreats that we offer every month, every end of the month. We offer Inner Peace, Inner Power. So discovering your inner peace so that you can mobilize your inner power in dealing with the daily stresses of life. Our retreatants also ask for managing stress, how to manage stress. And that means understanding what stress is all about, how to deal with stress, and going deep into our thoughts, how we become more positive in terms of our thinking so that we can transform the wasteful and the negative thoughts that we have in our minds. Also, we have company retreats. Some groups would ask for team building, would ask for organizational development processes. Families also come here for retreats.
The work of BK is spiritual. It's beyond just the physical, and it has to reach a lot of people. Obama was saying that be the change you want to be. With BK, it's sort of the same philosophy. You have to change yourself because the world only follows what you make of it. With BK, it's not just focused on politics or media or education. It's changing yourself, whoever you are, in whatever area you're working. And that's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Since then, Brahma Kumaris Philippines has grown exponentially, touching countless lives across the nation and guiding them towards peace, purity, and a profound connection with the divine.
I see that the Brahma Kumaris will be reaching out to more localities, more sectors that we haven't reached. And that means being able to make the spiritual knowledge of the Brahma Kumaris practical to the lives of the Filipinos. And so in the future, it would be good to be able to teach what we have learned from the Brahma Kumaris in the different local languages. Right now, we've been moving around for the creation of Peace Hubs because for 40th anniversary, we're doing this Peace Hub initiative.
Yeah, my message is that the time has come, that we cannot anymore waste. The time is telling us, calling us to become internally very stable, very strong, and to know you are a beautiful being, a child of God. And being aware that the time is such of difficulty, challenges on earth, we should create and increase our inner abundance of virtues and values and positivity so that we continue to live non-violent life on earth.
As we celebrate 40 years in the Philippines, we look to the future with hope and determination. The journey of Brahma Kumaris is far from over. With each passing day, we continue to grow, spreading the message of peace, love, and spiritual awakening.
All around the world, wherever there are people in need, city volunteers will be there to help. Be it a long Syrian refugees' journey to Europe, in the aftermath of an earthquake in Nepal, or in a town wiped out by the typhoon in the Philippines. City volunteers give, not for the sake of publicity, but for their firm faith in giving as one's responsibility. As of 2018, Tzu Chi had brought aid to more than 90 countries and regions around the world. Whenever a disaster strikes, as long as there's a way, Tzu Chi volunteers will do all they can to help. In 2003, Tzu Chi became an NGO under the United Nations umbrella. In 2008, it became the first overseas NGO allowed to register in China. In 2010, the UN Economic and Social Council granted special consultative status to Tzu Chi. Founded in 1966 by Dharma Master Zheng Yan, Tzu Chi has now become a synonym for love and goodness to many people around the globe. The story of Tzu Chi started from the small wooden cabin. Right from its humble beginnings, Master Zheng Yan has been encouraging her followers to save up a little every day to help the needy. The Master believes that everyone, rich or poor, is capable of giving. By pulling together everyone's savings, Tzu Chi has been able to help many people in need. In recent years, seeing how disasters occur more frequently with greater intensity, Master Zheng Yan is very worried. Disasters originate from the mind. To help bring peace to restless minds, as long as the Master is at her abode, no matter how weary she is, before dawn every day, she'll expound Buddhist teachings to share true principles with everyone. The Master's Dhamma talks and words of wisdom have been recorded by her disciples word by word, carefully proofread time and again, and then compiled into one book after another. These books have enlightened people in despair, awakened those serving time in prison, mended numerous broken families, and inspired many people to do good. However, rather than acclaiming Master Zheng Yan as a great author of modern times, it will be more appropriate to say that she is a religious leader of great compassion. Publishing books is just a way to reach out to more people. Master Zheng Yan's first book, Jing Si Aphorisms, was published in 1989. Concise yet profound, the aphorisms are the Master's words compiled from her speeches and dialogues with her disciples and visitors. The aphorisms have been translated into 18 languages and are beloved by people around the world. For the young generations, Master Zheng Yan has also composed a series of books, including The Promise of Spring, An Honest Merchant, Sowing the Seeds of a Good Life, and so on, all of which contain her gentle yet earnest reminders for young people. Concerned about climate change and the environment, the Master has authored Cleaner Mind, Cleaner Environment, The Power of the Mind, Living in Harmony with the Earth, and more. Almost every season, a new book by Master Zheng Yan will be published. Tzu Chi members study her books together and share their thoughts with one another. Through reading Master Zheng Yan's books, they are able to gain correct views and find answers to their questions about life and the world. Guided by Master Zheng Yan, Tzu Chi is the Buddhist Foundation, a non-governmental organization and also a spiritual cultivation group. For half a century, Tzu Chi members have been following Master Zheng Yan's teachings and her footsteps of compassion to serve humanity. In recognition of Tzu Chi's contributions to the world, since 1993, 8 universities in Taiwan and abroad have granted honorary doctorate in social science, social welfare, humanities, and so on to Master Zheng Yan. However, she always credits the honor and glory to all Tzu Chi members worldwide. For decades, people around the world have witnessed and moved by Tzu Chi volunteers' selfless giving and altruistic acts of kindness. Through giving, the volunteers have also come to realize that only actions based on compassion, love, and wisdom can truly touch people's hearts.
1994, Chuchi Philippines has brought compassion and relief through its various humanitarian programs. For almost 3 decades now, we have been serving underprivileged Filipinos through social services, medical care, education, and humanitarian aid. Founded in Taiwan by Buddhist nun Master Cheng Yen, the work of Chuchi is a mission of love to relieve the suffering of those in need and create a better world for all. The foundation is operated by a worldwide network of volunteers and employees and has been awarded a special consultative status at the United Nations Economic and Social Council. The Chuchi Philippines office opened in 1994 when Filipino-Chinese volunteers launched disaster relief efforts following the 7.1 magnitude Mindoro earthquake. The very first volunteers in the Philippines were Chinese Filipino civilians and doctors on charity missions who brought food and medical aid to remote and ravaged islands. To this day, we continue our charity work supporting thousands of indigents with monthly allowance and medicine. Chuchi has become renowned for disaster relief work, immediately on the ground to help those displaced by fires, storms, earthquakes, armed conflict, and other catastrophes. In 2009, on the heels of Typhoon Kitsana, locally known as Ondoy, which claimed over 700 lives and caused over 1 billion worth of damages, we launched our first large-scale cleanup effort with a Cash for Work program. Survivors and residents were recruited for cleanup operations, receiving 400 pesos a day. This served as a boost to the economy and helped the community get back on its feet. When Super Typhoon Yolanda, one of the world's most powerful storms, struck the Philippines in November 2013, an army of Tutsi volunteers from around the world traveled to Leyte to deliver aid and relief.
Hello. Hello. Alas. We will be starting in a few minutes. Kindly settle now. So, good morning. We invite you to join us for a moment of silence by watching a video on finding peace.
One of the qualities that all human minds are searching for at this moment in time is peace. How many times do people say, I want peace of mind? Because without peace there can't be stability, there can't be focus, everything appears chaotic. And very easily when there's no peace, then negativity becomes stronger. Let us look at peace. Let us find peace. And of course we cannot really find peace outside. Stable peace which renews me again and again is inside. And I need to find this peace daily. It cannot be a peace that I find just through a walk in the forest or a walk along the seaside. That is very beautiful and very refreshing. But most of us live in cities. We have busy lives. We don't have time to go to the sea, to be in the forest for many hours. So let me find this oasis of peace inside myself. Peace means harmony. Peace means balance. Peace means a quiet mind. A mind that is under my control. A mind that can be still. A mind that is not like a horse or a monkey that runs here and there whenever it wants. My mind should not have a mind of its own. Tranquility is the atmosphere I create around myself. And in that atmosphere of tranquility, others also get refreshment. They also feel themselves released from anxiety, irritation, fears. They are able to relax when they are near me. I'm also allowing things to come to me. Content. When I am content, I have let go of the wrong desires which make me rush here and there. And in that rushing, not only do I lose my peace, but also my balance. Just let me remain in this thought. I am a serene being. Peace is a quality of my being. Peace is my strength. I am a being of peace.
Greetings of peace. I'm Doc Helen Serrano from Brahma Kumaris, a holistic medical doctor who is also a Raj Yoga student and teacher for more than 2 decades. I shall be your host this morning on this We have 3 distinguished guest speakers to speak. Because of their advocacy on compassion and humanitarian service. And with this, may I invite the Deputy CEO of Chuchi Foundation, Philippines, Ms. Peggy C. Jan, for her welcome remarks.
From Brahma Kumaris, Sister Jayanti Kirpalani, Chief of Brahma Kumaris and Regional Coordinator for Europe, Sister Rajni Daolaram, National Coordinator of BKA Philippines and Japan, Ms. Marily Pimentel, President of Brahma Kumaris Philippines, Ms. Maria Lourdes Asaneta, Chair of Brahma Kumaris Philippines, Dr. Eperita Uy, from the UP National Health Institute, fellow Tzu Chi volunteers, and environmental advocates. I warmly welcome all of you in this blessed morning. I am Peggy C., one of the Deputy CEOs of Tzu Chi Philippines. It fills me with great joy that to see so many of you gathered here today, united as grateful advocates for our one and only home, this earth. Tzu Chi was established in 1966. We are now in our 58th year. And today, with volunteers in 68 countries, we have worked on the 4 principal missions of charity, medicine, education, and humanistic culture, and the 8 footprints, including environmental protection. In the Philippines, we have medical case assistances, scholarships, medical missions, Technical and Vocational Training Center located here in our campus. And we are now in 8 out of 17 regions in the Philippines. Today, we put into action the environmental protection movement sparked in Taiwan in 1990 by our founder, Master Cheng Yen. She told people to use their tapping hands to do recycling and sorting. Tzu Chi volunteers have worked to cherishing our natural environment by setting up recycling stations. So this is not just in the Philippines, but all over the world. We have more than 100,000 recycling volunteers. They are all unpaid. Around the world who help in sorting recyclables and trying our best to lessen trash that end up in oceans and landfills. Each of us carry an environmental protection lunch kit, each volunteer, reducing use of disposables. Reducing recycling has been part of our everyday lives. So whether we participate in these types of dialogues, like in the UN, or when we talk to volunteers or disaster victims, we bring and share these principles. Tzu Chi invests in research and product development, our Tzu Chi main office in Taiwan, to turn PET or PET bottles to fabric. Recently, to turn paper food containers into packaging, paper bags, tissue paper, and the plastic layers of these paper containers into bricks. So later, if you have time, if you can walk around, you will actually see these eco bricks made out of recycled plastic in our campus. Every second, 2,556 animals are killed. And this excludes marine life. And this data, it was in 2021. I'm sure with the population increase, these numbers are no longer should have increased. So every day, 220 million animals are slaughtered, and every year, 806 billion animals are killed. The meat industry has a significant impact on the general global scale on water, soil extinction of plants and animals, consumption of natural resources, and it has a strong impact on global warming. One of the most important decisions that we make every day is actually what we put on our plate and what we eat every day. As Master Cheng Yen said, to love our planet is to love all beings. Tzu Chi promotes a plant-based lifestyle, and it has been at the forefront of slowing down environmental degradation worldwide by embodying these sustainable practices. And I just want to quote Mother Teresa. She said that not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. If we from different faiths can come together, we can do a lot of things. And on this Unifying Day, we are grateful to have partnered with like-minded individuals and organizations like the Brahma Kumaris and the UP National Institute of Health, who work to promote these environmental advocacies through events like these. And through this collaboration, we hope that we can amplify our voices to safeguard our planet. I invite everyone to explore the Tsuchi grounds later. Also later during lunch, we will offer a simple plant-based meal for everyone. And we also have upcycling products, and we also have our recycling station here that you can actually get involved in the future. And again, we want to invite everyone to understand how we can change our daily decisions, how we can help the environment, and it will make not just these three organizations, but every one of us to make this world better and to make this world safer for the future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Peggy. That was very informative. So later you can move around and look at the big place. Okay, now we move on. This forum has the following objectives. As a comprehensive initiative, we want to learn about the evidence-based good practices for healing nature and our well-being. Second, for a more personal, specific action and effort, we advocate vegetarianism, just like what Ms. Peggy said. Understand the benefits of plant-based diet in caring for this planet. And finally, we want to gain a deeper appreciation of the importance of nurturing a healthy mind for a healthy planet, since consciousness or our awareness and climate change are inextricably linked. And so, without further ado, we will start with our first speaker. So, our first speaker is a university scientist, director and research professor, Institute of Child Health and Human Development. She's a clinical professor at University of the Philippines College of Medicine. She received a lot of academic honors and research awards. To talk on the topic, evidence-based good practices for healing nature and well-being. Let's welcome Dr. Esterita Villanueva Uy. Let's give her a round of applause.
Good morning to everybody. I'm Dr. Tita Uy from the Institute of Child Health and Human Development of the National Institute of Health in Colombia. And I will basically talk on climate change and health outcomes. Now, I'm not really an expert, but actually a student on the concerns of climate change, having been approached by the GIZ from the German NGO on helping on the climate change programs here in the Philippines. I am here to share what I have learned, but more so I'm here to learn from the other speakers and Brahma Kumaris on how to deal with this global threat. I have been watching the videos earlier and I realized that among all the disasters and chaos, there was peace, on all BK's endeavors, since there was purpose, there was love and compassion in all their endeavors. So I hope this can also be applied in this impending global threat, climate change. I'm not sure if we could already have the slides. Sorry for the delay. With regards to climate change, what I will talk about would be, what are the different issues that the Philippines is actually facing with regards to climate change. We said that in this century, the global threat is really climate change. And from what I can remember from my slides is that more than almost 4 billion people are actually affected by live in areas that will be affected by climate change. And that more than 250,000 deaths per year will occur from 2030 to 2050 because of issues of malnutrition, respiratory infection, diarrheal infection, and the like. We actually are doing a study with PAGASA wherein we will check if there is an increase in this degree of, for instance, 0.1 degrees Celsius increase in ambient temperature, what would be the corresponding increase in heart attack, in stroke, in kidney failure, which may require dialysis, even an increase in mental health and what they call self-harm, because it seems like it's not only our body, but also mental health that is being affected. There have been several studies in other countries, including our neighbors in Japan, Taiwan, and Singapore, where they have found that with an increase in the temperature, there may be an associated increase in health. I'm just not sure if it would be. So actually, climate change is not really, it's not new, but like 12,000 years ago, there was already some climatic variability in ancient Arabia. So that there was loss of lives, loss of food. What was the human response? The human response was first to migrate to other areas where there is more water, to have water conservation, and to change their economies. But right now, that is only a small part of the world. Now we're talking about a global threat. We call it an Anthropocene era or eco, wherein all the climate change or the climate change and its outcomes is actually due to human activity. So that we may have to really change our lifestyle to be able to somehow alleviate the effects of climate change. In the Philippines, according to PAGASA, it can go as high as 4 degrees centigrade higher from our baseline air temperature by 2080 to 2090, And this has a very big implication, not only on our health, but also on agriculture, because there will be reduction in food supply, and so there will also be an increase in malnutrition, reduction also in water supply, so there will be water shortage, there will also be an increase in waterborne infections because of poor hygiene. Based on these slides, there are several issues with climate change, and the first would be increase in temperature, as I have mentioned earlier. This has impact on health. What are the impacts on health? It will increase heat-related illnesses like heat stroke. It will actually increase hospitalization, secondary, as mentioned, to stroke, heart attack, renal diseases. But there are indirect effects on health, like health services, because there is higher admission, there will be higher admissions, higher ambulance call, there will be shortage of manpower, shortage of supply and infrastructure. So that is one of our problems with an increase in temperature. One of the other problems would be the loss of biodiversity. What we found was that by 2050, around 98% of the marine life in Southeast Asia will be extinct. And so we have to help with this. And they said that in the Philippines, by 2050, our fish catch will only be 50% of that in like 2000 to 2010. So what does this tell us? This will again be loss of food, and then also loss of medicinal plants that are used as traditional medicine, and of course there will be loss of the ecosystem. So loss of biodiversity is also an important outcome or effect of climate change. The other outcome would be, as mentioned, desertification. Again, with increase in temperature, there would be again loss of loss of some forest, and then there will again be decrease in water supply. The other effects would be again land and forest degradation, but this is because of human activity. Because of urbanization, we're actually invading the forest, so that aside from lumber industry, the urbanization actually also leads to degradation. What is its impact on health? In the forest, there are some vectors, or there are some mosquitoes, some insects that carry some unique disease. But it is only confined in the forest. But because of us invading the forest, building our houses there, we're now exposed to new vectors, and now we're exposed to new diseases. I think this may be one of the reasons for the bird flu, etc., because we're invading actually their habitat. I'm trying to remember what I had in the slide about the effects of urbanization, of climate change. But one of them I can remember is salinization, because of the increased salt content of our oceans, because again, due to human activity, this will actually lead to higher incidence of hypertension, heart attack. Also, they say preeclampsia, if you're familiar with the hypertension of the pregnant woman, as well as low birth weight, stillbirths, etc. So this climate change does not only affect, our daily lives, it's actually affecting our health. And the last would be ocean acidification. This is again increase in the carbon dioxide into the ocean, which again is due, 26% is due again to our human activity. And this will again lead to some changes in the marine ecosystem. And again, this will again lead to
poor food quality, as well as changes in and may actually increase exposure to toxicants. And I think the last would be glacial retreat, which is, we know that with the increasing temperature in the North and the South Pole, like the glaciers are melting, it may seem remote to us because we're in a tropical country, but this may also lead to less availability of potable water and will actually also lead to extinction of some of the marine life. So all these, as you can see, are effects of climate change, which we may think it's called slow events of climate change. Slowly, we're going to that time where, as mentioned, we have passed what is called the tipping point. That whatever we do, some of the articles said that whatever we do, it is already inevitable that there would really be an increase in the temperature. So I would like to just go through some of my slides. If we could go, if you could just click to the next slides. So I've actually talked about this already and about ancient Arabia, and that we are in the Anthropocene epoch, wherein the global effects of climate change is secondary to human activity. We are actually very familiar with what is called sudden onset, the typhoon, the landslides, etc., because this actually causes, deaths and loss of home. But what we should think about also is on the next slide, which is the low onset climate events. Because this is the one that account for 2/3 of the disaster-related economic losses in Asia Pacific. And this is something that somehow we forget to think because this is just creeping along the background, but actually it will reach to a point where it will really have significant effect on our health and life. If we could just go further, I talked about the increase in the temperature, just to emphasize that in the Philippines, from 1951 to 2015, the average rate of increase is only 0.1 degrees centigrade per decade. But the projections of PAG-ASA from 2035 to 2065 is 0.9 to 1.9 degrees per in that 30 years, to as high as 1.2 to 2.3. So if you look at the graph, if you can see it with regards to 4-degree increase that is expected or predicted in 2080 to 2090. Next, please. As you can see, I mentioned already the increase on diseases as well as its impact in health delivery. I actually talk about the certification wherein they said that the Philippines is the 57th among the most water-stressed country by 2040, and that is there is an increased risk of water shortage by 2040. And as mentioned on the left side are the disease outcomes that may occur. I have also mentioned the loss of biodiversity again. And again, the Philippines, as mentioned, the fish catch potential will decrease by 50% in 2060. I did not mention this, but there is really a significant sea level rise in the Philippines, like 3 times that of the global sea level rise, so that there would be loss of land and livelihood and displacement of community, again affecting mental health. We all know about the risk of floods and storm surge, and there may be less access to healthcare services if the infrastructures have also been damaged. I talked about this land and forest degradation. And about the next would be about the global glacial retreat. And next would be about ocean acidification, which I mentioned. Again, 26% of the carbon dioxide deposited or absorbed by the ocean is due to human activity. And desalinization is also an important problem, an increased salt content in the ocean. You have to remember we have a lot of adults on dialysis, secondary to chronic kidney disease. We can see actually, we're seeing the effect of high salt intake, and this is not only will lead to hypertension. As you can see, it can affect infant mortality, and then acute and respiratory and diarrheal diseases. So that this is just telling us that climate change, agriculture, and health are interrelated because it affects food insecurity, it affects biodiversity, our access to water, as well as the risk for water and vector-borne diseases. This is just to show us really a summary of what climate change can do on health with the increasing temperature, more extreme weather, rising sea levels. You can have all these diseases from asthma, malaria, allergies, and cholera. But what's important is the water and food supply impacts, which may lead to malnutrition, and some environmental degradation that will lead to forced migration, civil conflict, and mental health. So what is climate change's impact on healthcare? The increase in injury and infectious diseases will actually put a strain on healthcare providers with regards operations through damaged facilities and disrupted supply chain. It aggravates the pressing environmental, social, and governance issues in health with workforce burnout, health disparities, and availability of key resources like water. But what is its impact on global food security? From 135 million people with acute food insecurity in 2019, in 2022 it almost tripled to 345 million as a result of the war in Ukraine, the supply chain disruptions and economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic, but also because of climate change. Because global warming influences the weather patterns, heat waves, heavy rainfalls, and droughts, leading to decrease in food supply and increase in food prices. Also, we have to also change or modify our food system because it is really affected by climate change, but it's also responsible to 1/3 of the greenhouse gas emissions. It is the #1 source of methane and biodiversity loss. Next, please. And the problem is that this is dear to us because 80% of the global population are at risk, including Southeast Asia, where farming families are disproportionately poor and vulnerable. Because with the rising temperature, it accelerates evaporation from plants and soil, so that climate change will diminish water supplies. It increases extreme events, increases prevalence of pests and disease, so that a 2-degree centigrade increase in average global temperature have really immediate effects on crops like wheat and rice. I would just want to tell you that climate change also affects equity because people whose health is harmed first and worst by the climate crisis are people who contribute least to its cause, who are least able to protect themselves and families, and these are the people in the low income and disadvantaged countries, so that those responsible should bear the highest mitigation and and adaptation cost. So now we really know that the climate is changing. So should we? So we have to act now. So what are the WHO responses? What are the international agencies' response to climate change? WHO wants to promote actions that reduce carbon emission and improve health. And this is to have rapid and equitable transition to a clean energy economy and health central to climate change mitigation policies. And to really build better, more climate resilient and environmentally sustained health systems, which should be the central component of what we will soon be implementing, the universal health care. And that we protect health from the wide range of impacts of climate change by assessing health vulnerabilities and develop health plans as early as now. Next, please. From the World Economic Forum in 2022, these are just one of their messages or recommendation, is that really again to decarbonize and adaptation advancement, make infrastructure climate-proof and lower operational costs. And technology can be on our side because we can do telemedicine, remote monitoring, drones to transport emergency supplies. And we can have green incentives and capital present enhance access to funding opportunities. They're saying that with any economic, social, and governance-related activities, that there should be lower insurance costs, sustain initial boost of workforce morale, and actually, if you improve community resilience, makes climate-driven care needs more manageable. On the other side, how can agriculture adapt to climate change? Again, we have to reduce the emissions, the greenhouse gases, carbon emissions, and become more resilient, requiring major social, economic, and technological changes by using water more efficiently, switch to less thirsty crops like rice to maize or legumes, but they will have a hard time with communities or countries who are really rice eater. But they were saying that this will reduce the methane emissions since rice is the major source of this emission. We may also have to improve the soil health because if we increase organic carbon in soil, this will help retain water better and allow plants to access water more, especially during drought. More nutrients also without requiring any chemical fertilizer, and to restore the carbon by not tilling the soil and by using cover crops with large roots, and of course, rotation of the crops. Recently, after Typhoon Karina, Greenpeace calls to our president for what is called climate justice. And in this, it's more of governance, that we speed up the passage of the Climate Accountability Bill, litigate carbon emission measures for climate impact damages to the Filipinos, review and cancel any MOU from agencies like DENR with companies which perpetuate our climate crisis. We champion the climate damages tax to ensure funding and payment from corporations for loss and damage. We stop all plans for nuclear energy, fossil gas expansion, and other false solutions, and really establish policy reforms to reshape our economy to enable climate justice and community resilience. I would just like to add that we can use the climate information services. This is actually the goal or one of the objectives of the GIZ, wherein the climate information services be accessible and to the stakeholders. So in the Philippines, going to the different conferences on climate change, I realized that our government actually have very important tools for us to be able to adapt to climate change. Like Pag-asa, they already have a weather forecast or prediction for the next 50 years, so this will actually help us with urban planning. The Department of Agriculture has a color mapping wherein it predicts crop suitability in regions in the Philippines for the next 50 years. They were telling us that in the next 50 years, rice may not be planted, cannot survive in Central Luzon already, so that Central Luzon will only have maize, and that rice may be produced in Mindanao. So they actually have all this mapping and projections. And if you have, for instance, a farm in Tagaytay, you can go to that color mapping of the Department of Agriculture, and they will tell us what are the crops suitable to that land. PhilVox, with the use of the hazard hunters, you can gives you the risk of earthquake, floods, and droughts in specific areas in the country. Actually, this is actually for our safety. Like you go to the hazard hunters. I wanted to show this to you, but basically what you will do is go to hazard hunters, look for your house, click on it, and then they will tell us how far it is from an earthquake fault, what is the risk of flood, what is the risk of storm surge, etc. Actually, what happened with hazard hunters, according to PhilVox, is it is now being used by banks for home loans to assess your application. So it found another way, but basically this was actually for our consumption. So what can I do to heal nature and improve our well-being? I actually just got this from the several websites. And basically, one of the things, this is not really the only way, but this may be some examples of what we can do. Really, for one, carpooling or using a public transportation, or really just walking would help. So these are really simple things. Go once a week, so avoid disposable cups or other utensils. Trying to turn off the lights on an empty room. Actually, and then instead of eating lunch on campus, bring really your meal so you don't have any disposables. Unplug your computer every night. Just a short story, because my daughter in their school, they have this environmental subject, and they were asked to remove all the plugs at night. But one of her classmates unplugged the refrigerator. So there was really this, so the mother complained. But I saw my daughter, when we're sleeping, she will start unplugging all our, the lights, etc. So I think these are just simple things that we can do. Well, the others do not really apply to us, like laundry, but they said shopping online, but I think this is what we're doing now with Lazada and all. Try reducing printing. So basically, in our office, we're not really printing a lot. It's really more of email. These are just simple things of cutting shower time and even turning off the faucet while brushing your teeth, and reducing bottled water consumption. So these are just small things that we can do. Switch off the lights, take the stairs. When there's AC, shut the window, take shorter shower, power down laptop. They said a laptop has 90% less emission compared to desktop. So if we could just switch to laptops, unplug electronics, keep room temperature moderate. This is for laundry, using fewer or shared appliances, and switching to LED. Next, please. And this would be our footprints. They said, really, this is just being not wasteful only buy what you did, because 20 to 50% of everything ends up in the landfill. As mentioned by our previous speaker, eat less meat and dairy, since 70% of the world's footprint is from animal products. Eat less processed food. Buy local and in season, and grow your own food. So these are just simple things that we can do to be able to help with climate change impacts. Actually, I got this, that there was a pledge in a school to walk and cycle more, to share and reuse, to choose plant alternatives, buying local products, using both sides of the paper, and calculating your own food. And not wasting food. And this is again, similarly, that there is a pledge for children that they will actually do these simple things to be able to help with for saving our earth. So in summary, if we could go to the next slide, please. So in summary, the Philippines is highly vulnerable to climate change which adversely affects health outcomes. Now, health and agriculture are highly impacted by climate change, as well as health and agriculture contribute significantly to greenhouse gas. International agencies provide strategies to decrease climate change impact, but basically, change can start with me. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Esterlita, for that very comprehensive climate change physical factors. And so now what I remember was increased acute food security loss. So climate is changing, so we need to act now. And our next speaker will tackle that, a specific individual effort. Our next speaker is a program officer for Chuchi Foundation Philippines. She is a member of Chuchi International Youth Association and was part of 2022 cohort of the International Youth Leadership Program. She joined the official delegates that represented Chuchi during 2022 Climate Conference in Egypt. That's COP27. Lynette speaks on topic related to sustainable development. The program officer of Chuchi Foundation Philippines, to talk on plant-based diet in caring for our planet.
Thank you, Doc Helen. Good morning, everyone. So when we talk about climate action, we most often than not, we think of grand ideas, right? So we think about the big things that the world can do. But as Doc Helen said, I'm going to focus on the individual effort, and that relates to the everyday thing that we do, which is to eat. So yes, food is a change maker. I guess you're all familiar with the classic, food is the way to a man's heart. It is a love language. It changes the mood of a person. So when you're full at breakfast, it also changes your outlook throughout the day. It is a change maker indeed. And it is also an identity woven into the fabric of cultures, of human life, and of planetary health. And it also cascades in the global landscape every day that we decide what we put on our plate. From land use to water supply to greenhouse gas emissions, as Dr. Uy has mentioned in her talk. So here we take on a new significance on the global food system, understanding the feedback loops and intersectionality in our ecological dialogues. The things we claim to be, the conversations we have internally with ourselves and with the world we live in. So I'd like to start with how we see development. Usually when we talk about development, we think about economic growth and technological shifts, right? So globally, actually food production has increased significantly, and intensive agricultural production has been introduced by Green Revolution, which shaped current mainstream agricultural practices. There is more food produced today per person. And the other side of the coin is that we also see ecological degradation. There are unsustainable resource consumption and also our dependency on the use of non-renewable sources. The global food system is the quiet link that binds problems and solutions. We have the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and they are all connected to one another. So from food production, consumption, and disposal, these are all linked to one another. And just talking about water supply is actually already shocking. For example, having to know that 2.5 billion people live in water-stressed areas around the world. And the main reason for this is the increase in population and economic growth, leading to an increase in water usage in different economic sectors. And the basic premise here is that as the population increases, so as the global food demand. And by 2050, we might be talking about 10 billion people, feeding 10 billion people, tugging at limited resources. So talking about development, we can say that looking back, we have come so far, and yes, hindsight is good. We can see how much we've grown, but right now, foresight is what we need. How do we see ourselves? Where do we sit in the years ahead? So our organization, Tzu Chi Foundation, is always drawn to respond to disasters, especially contextualizing here in the Philippines. We encounter a lot of calamities. There are more flooding now in the years that passed, right? I think we've all heard the news that just a few rain can flood a community, actually many communities. And while we have our other missions, we have education, we have humanistic, we also have charity. Many of you might have actually heard about us because you've encountered the news of Tzu Chi helping a disaster-stricken community. And it is likewise because of doing disaster relief efforts that we come to realize the imbalance of our ecosystem, wherein we all have taken a role. So our active pursuits, other active pursuits in environmental protection is recycling, which Ms. Peggy mentioned a while ago, and also adoption of plant-based style. So as a faith-based organization, Tzu Chi Foundation, we have our dynamic strategies in promoting values-based approach. And personally, I believe that our beliefs dictate our action toward our environment. And so that's why we actually have, instead of just 3 R's and 5 R's, we have adopted the 7 R's. We have reduce, reuse, recycle, refuse, repair, and finally, we have respect and rethink. And just to share a quote from our founder, Dharma Master Cheng Yen, environmental protection involves not only purifying the mountains, waters, and land, but also purifying our hearts. I think this is the most important. And this is something that I actually appreciate about what we do. Because to respect and to rethink are two personal actions that create a collective impact. transitioning to plant-based diets has the potential to reduce land use. As of now, 30% of the world's greenhouse gases are emitted by the food sector. 80% of all agricultural land is used for livestock production, which is the greatest driver of deforestation and biodiversity loss globally. And while there is more food produced per person now, 1/3 of which is either lost or wasted. So if we can operate within the boundaries of planetary system and have this regenerative influence, we will also be able to see how much of our intensified habit of taking we can reverse in order to save our planet. So actually we can think of the Earth as an hourglass. Each particle is a short-lived moment, finite resource. So just to end, I'd like to leave you with 2 questions to ask ourselves. The first is, what are the values that I hold in my climate action? And the second is, what do I want to put in my plate today? And I hope we can ask this question daily. What do we want to put in our plate? I hope it is kindness and also a prayer for a healthier planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that very kind and specific reminder for everyone. So we are a bit behind our schedule, but we'll move on. Our next speaker is someone very dear to many Raj Yoga students. She is the co-chief of Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University, which is the world's largest spiritual organization to be led by women. A Raj Yogi for over 60 years, she merges Eastern wisdom with Western culture. As a renowned speaker and author of several spiritual books, she advocates for a positive change in global leadership, women empowerment, environmental stewardship, and interreligious harmony. To speak on the topic climate change and consciousness, a healthy mind for a healthy planet. Let's welcome Sister BK, Sister Jenti Kirpalani.
Good morning, and I'd like to greet you with a greeting of peace. Om Shanti. I am peace. That's the translation of that Sanskrit language. We've heard brilliant expositions on the whole subject of the impact of climate change on health and also the value of plant-based diet and how to choose what it is we put on our plate. And I agree with everything that has been said so far. It's excellent. And I'd just like to bring in this aspect of consciousness. I first started attending the climate change conferences in 2009, and at that time it was in Copenhagen. And I've attended every single COP since then, except for a couple, which I had to miss for personal reasons. And yes, last year I was in Dubai, and this year I'll be in Azerbaijan. And people ask, well, what does consciousness have to do with climate? Well, it's a very simple connection. According to my consciousness is how I live my life. And if my consciousness is materialistic consciousness, just based on physical consciousness, then in that awareness, what I want is to find my happiness from consumerism and materialism. And so they have this expression, shop till you drop. And many people do this. They go out shopping and they come back exhausted, but with handbags and shoes and things that maybe they're going to use just once a year. I'm sure that at some point of time we've been affected by this also. Just as there are other types of addiction that are now being recognized, shopping is also an addiction that has been recognized. And so can you imagine, if consumerism and materialism continues, what would be the impact on this climate? We're already using 2.5 times the resources of the planet that we can actually have. And so carry on just a little bit further, and this idea of constant growth in expenditure and finance and resources is actually a myth. It's not a reality. And so at some point of time, we have to see what we want to do, which direction do we want to go in. We heard about the Anthropocene era, which is correct. It's human activity that has caused this crisis. It's strange. Human beings are perhaps the most intelligent of all species on this planet. Other planets we don't know, but certainly on this planet, we are recognized as being the most intelligent and the highly evolved ones. And yet, no other species destroys its own habitat. Nobody destroys their own home. But human beings have managed, with their high intelligence, to actually destroy our own home, this planet, a very precious planet. When the astronauts were up in outer space and they looked down on the planet, they saw this planet as the beautiful blue pearl. And the reason for the blue pearl was, of course, the water on this planet, but definitely the most beautiful of all. And so, what have we done? We moved our consciousness away from spirituality, and we moved our consciousness into material consciousness, physical identity. And if we make a shift, if we make a change to our spiritual identity, then we have a life that brings us greater happiness, greater peace, greater love. There was a very lovely video that was played at the beginning about peace and where is peace. And the point was being made that peace is not outside, peace is inside. I'd like to add to that the fact that happiness is also not outside. I buy a new car, and for a little while it'll make me very happy, but next time I see my neighbor has a bigger, better car than mine, my happiness comes down again. Or if somebody by chance leaves a scratch on my car, and instantly 10%, 20%, 25% of its value is knocked off instantly, again my happiness disappears. But peace, happiness, love are found inside the human spirit. And when we come back to our spiritual consciousness, our spiritual identity, the change that happens is that we know that it's not by things and objects and property or bank balances that we find happiness, but we can find happiness by going on an inner journey within. We find that peace which lies inside each and every one of us, and we experience it. Love, can we buy it outside in a supermarket or in a designer store? It's not there. But love is something of the heart, something of the soul that can be shared and given freely. And so this change of consciousness away from materialism and consumerism brings about a huge transformation in our lifestyle and in our habits. What was mentioned earlier also was that we need to have a change of lifestyle. Have you tried changing one habit that you have? Who has tried making a change in their habits? Any habit? No one? A few? Well, I'm sure many of you have. But it's difficult. Maybe you're able to change your habit, whatever it may be you decide to change. Maybe you're able to change it for a week, maybe for a month, But most of us, when we make our promises, resolutions at the beginning of each year, we think that, yes, I must do this, I need to do this, and I think I'm going to do it forever, because changing a habit and then sustaining it means doing it forever. But usually what happens within the first month, those resolutions have been forgotten and they've left. And so it's an indication that trying to change ourselves, any habit of our lifestyle, takes a lot of determination and a lot of inner courage and power, which generally we lack. And so this is why sometimes people say, yes, I've tried giving up smoking many times, but I don't think I'll bother anymore because it doesn't work. Well, that's an external habit. But we all have inner addictions. We have the inner addictions of greed, of ego, of attachment, and these lead us into wasteful manners. It happens. I look at my lifestyle and I ask myself, what is it that I need to change? Whether it's choice of diet, whether it's choice of designer clothes, whether it's choice of furniture, whatever it is that I choose to buy. Can I make a choice that doesn't create more footprint, that reduces my footprint? Yes, definitely I can do that. Can I simplify things? Can I make a conscious choice in which there's no damage, no harm to the planet any further? Yes, I can do that also. The other day I was seeing a person who was very well dressed, and this was in Germany, and he stood up to speak and he said, do you notice anything about my clothes? And it was a strange thing for a person to be talking about who's a scientist. Scientists don't usually bother about what clothes they wear, but he was a scientist, a leading scientist, and he then said he's the head of the research into sustainability at Potsdam, the institute there. So very high level of qualifications. Then he said that everything that I'm wearing is actually recycled. It has been made from plastic, it has been made from other things that have been recycled to create. Can you imagine if all of us were to choose to wear recycled clothes? It's possible, it's available, it's there. Or if we were all to say that we want to choose to have recycled or renewable energies, is that possible? In India, I think that we must be the largest organization that's using renewable energies. At our headquarters in Abu, we started using renewable energies in 2018, and so that's quite a long time ago. And the energies that were put in at that time have been maintained to the extent that most of them are still in use. About 25 years ago, we created a campus at the bottom of the mountain in Abu, in Rajasthan, a very dry area, semi-desert area. And what we found there was that we could use solar energy to a great extent. 9 months of the year we have brilliant sunshine. 3 months it's monsoon rains, but 9 months it's sunshine. And so, having started on a small scale in 2018, some years later, we then created what was at that time the largest solar cooking range in the world that could cook meals 3 times a day for 25,000 people. And then in a couple of years ago, through that period of COVID, it was under construction, but it was put into use. It was commissioned just a couple of years ago, and this is the first of its kind in India at least, and it's called India-1. If you want to look at it on your website, you'll see there a whole field of parabolic mirrors, 75 parabolic mirrors, huge, huge ones, and this generates thermal energy, solar thermal energy, that makes energy available, electricity available for 24 hours. Because through our own research and development, what we found was that it was possible to find ways to which is when we need it the most usually, that we found ways to be able to of conserving that energy and using it through the night hours with 24-hour power supply for our campus of 25,000 people. We have about 5,600 centers all over India, and these centers were given solar energy ovens and solar energy cookers. And so this is how we've been using the sun, which is available freely for everyone. The poorest of the poor can make use of this. The solar cookers and the solar ovens are very cheap. They don't involve a lot of high-tech, no high-tech at all actually. And so it's possible to convert the needs of a family away from normal energy to renewable energy. So how did all that happen? It happened because of a shift of consciousness. Thinking, well, can we reduce our needs, which is very, very high energy dependent in most countries, and find renewable energies? And so that change of consciousness meant that people spend some time and energy using their skills. Again, it's wonderful to hear of the work of this foundation, which is based on volunteers who are unpaid. We have volunteers across the world in 110 countries where we serve teaching meditation and other aspects of transformation of lifestyle, transformation of our inner world, our inner consciousness, and it's by free service volunteers. All our courses are completely free, because like the sunshine that's available to all, in the same way spirituality is for the light of the sun of the soul, and that also should be made freely available to all. So all our courses, classes, seminars, everything that we do is free of charge. And so I know that it seems a very difficult thing to do, to change lifestyle, but those of you who've been practicing meditation, and I think here I'm speaking to a converted audience, probably you know that the power that you receive through meditation is such that you really can bring about the changes in the things that you would like to change. And so there are negative traits, and we all generally carry something that's a little bit negative within ourselves. It's the power that comes through focusing the mind on truth, on goodness, that's able to give us the courage and the strength to say, yes, I make this decision to change. I will not go shopping for extra things anymore. I will take only what I need, what is essential for my family's needs. That's in a way a simple thing, but the inner changes that one makes are even more challenging, but with meditation become possible. And so I know that the identity of the self, when I think I am this body, with my body, the house that I live in, the car that I use, the clothes that I wear, I want these to be the best possible. But when I come back to the awareness that I am that inner being, the soul, and in this consciousness of soul, then I know that yes, there has to be modesty, yes, I know there has to be simplicity, and so I can change things very, very quickly within my lifestyle. And I think that this really is the only way in which we can prepare for the future. I see two aspects of the future. One, that I feel that because governments haven't listened, we've been hearing about climate change since 1972. But most people did not hear about it till the last decade, because at that time when scientists were speaking about the possibilities that could happen through climate change, people sort of said, well, we're not quite sure. Well, maybe it is human activity, maybe it's not. And even until 10 years ago, I was challenged in a COP conference where we were having a press conference, and I later understood that the person who was asking the question was actually one of the climate change deniers, and he'd done a lot of anti-publicity about the whole thing. And so he said to me, do you think that climate change scientists are creating fraud in the statistics they're issuing about climate change? And I knew the subject, but I didn't know the person, so my answer was on the basis of what I did know, that in fact there was absolute evidence that yes, climate change is a reality. And the strange thing is that there are very highly educated people even today who say, is this for real? I don't think so. But we find them less and less. But a few people in very powerful places are still climate change deniers. But also, of course, what happens is that politicians will always think about the next election rather than the future of humanity as a whole. And climate change definitely impacts all of us. There's no question about it. It's not restricted to the Philippines or to
part of the world or to the south part of the world. You know, if you're in a boat, when the water starts coming into the boat, then people at one end of the boat feel the water that's coming in. There's a leakage coming from one side, but within a little while, the water is everywhere in the boat. And so climate change has already impacted most countries across the globe in some form or another. And yes, the South seems to be one that's more exposed to climate change in a big way, and I know how the situation.
Philippines, we saw some of them on the screen earlier, but India, definitely climate change has hit it hard. This year, for the first time, temperatures in Delhi
50 degrees Celsius. Schools had to shut and work had to stop. What is the future? Well, unless governments take action, because on one level, individuals can take action, but it needs a large minority. And then that critical mass of the minority can reach the majority. But if governments take the decision to put taxes on fuel, for example, it would be the most unpopular thing across the world, in any country at all. That's a fact. And no government is going to take that risk of unpopularity and losing the next elections. And so although they could make a difference, having told us at election time that they were very concerned about climate and environment, then once they were in power, they then started giving licenses to people for fuel and energies that were not renewable energies. And now we're lucky that we have another government that's coming, and that's put a hold on all the licenses for the moment. But what happens to the next election, let's wait and see. But I think it's my personal responsibility. I can't wait for others to change. I can't wait for governments to take decisions. And conferences cost a lot of money, huge amount of money, a lot of expenditure on energy in so many different ways, but the outcome has not yet come. Because it's governments who take those decisions, but why I'm interested in attending these conferences is because it gives exposure to this idea of consciousness and climate being connected. And what is now happening is that more and more people with their awareness is a growing force, and it's going to reach a level which is a critical mass, maybe not because of the science, but because of the reality of what's actually happening in our lives and the discomfort or the tragedies even that we experience in our lives as a result of climate change. And so the outcome is surely going to be that we hit critical mass and the majority will agree that yes, there needs to be a change. I see that human values are a very important force in bringing about transformation. But you can only connect with human spiritual values when you're aware of the spiritual being. And in that consciousness of I, the spiritual being, I'm connected with the qualities that I hold within myself and start using those qualities in my life. And I think that that's the future. The future is surely one in which, after this period of great darkness, where there has been a lot of ignorance about many aspects, especially the spiritual dimension, I think the future is that after the dark night, the sun has to appear, and in the future, the human values that we all love so much and wish to see happening, not just in our lives personally, but in the world generally. I'm sure that we'll see that there'll be an era in which there is love and truth and harmony and peace. And we won't need to use fossil fuels. We'll have had enough education to be able to use other forms of energy which are clean energy. Thank you.
A good reminder before you click on Shopee and Lazada next time. And so we thank all the distinguished speakers for that very enlightening talk today. We hope that we are all reminded, because we are all part of this climate change, so we really have to do something. So some of you now may have burning questions for our three speakers. And we will have a Q&A portion in a while. We'll first have an intermission song number by our very own Nightingale of Brahma Kumaris. Miss Tina Diaz is a student of Raj Yoga for more than 20 years. She's a songwriter and a professional singer. Let us all welcome Miss Tina Diaz to sing God Save the Rainbow. A round of applause. So before that, after writing, during this time, you can use it to write your questions. Ushers will be roaming around to pick up your questions, okay?
Don't pretend that the world isn't coming to an end. People killing and fighting than ever before. Starving and dying, increasing fever. Will our children, will they live to see the unspoiled beauty of flowers and trees, mountains and rivers, valleys and fields, or will they suffer man's destiny?
Thank you for that very beautiful rendition of God Save the Rainbow. And now the most awaited time for the question and answer portion. Sister Aseneta to come and conduct this.
Greetings of peace to everyone. And having listened to the three speakers, there's some questions that have come here, and I would be very happy to facilitate and moderate this open forum. So there is this question, and this is for all our three speakers, on all of the discussed predisposing factors to climate change that you have shared to all of us in today's society. What do you think are the most important, or is the most important, climate-preserving action? So many predisposing factors to climate change, but we can ask each speaker what they think is the most important climate-preserving action that we need at this time. So anyone can start?
I think in terms of practical action, it's moving to a plant-based diet in which there's vegetarian but also veganism, because milk also is a culprit within the whole story of carbon emissions. So I'm not going to the detail of that. I'm sure you can find all of that information.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just like to follow up on that, because actually the most irreversible and severe impact of climate change take place in the agricultural production part of the chain. And I think this is something where we can see the transgression of boundaries in terms of biodiversity laws and, yes, climate change impacts. So agricultural production is actually related to our own consumption of food and the disposal of, yes, food in this part of the chain.
Thank you.
As mentioned by our previous speakers, that really the change should really start with us, with change in lifestyle and in diet. I will really dream what Sister Kirpalani said earlier, that really our government is really focused on the next election and not beyond that. That is the problem with climate change. It's something that we have to do now to protect the future generation. And I think I'm just hoping that if the government will really take a very, very
focus on the effects of climate change, it may actually help with the decrease in carbon emissions of the different industries that we can be able to regulate this. And even a change, like as mentioned, agriculture, as mentioned, is one of the, I think second to food is one of the higher carbon emitters also. So if we could just really change the system, in the food system, as even in the health system, they said in the health system, the problem is really in the supply and the delivery of the medications, etc. If we could actually just change this, if there could be some bill or enactment of some bill in our country and other countries to be able to decrease carbon emission.
Thank you, Dr. Tita. And so, after hearing our speakers talk about the value of agricultural production as a way of climate-preserving action, there is a question here, particularly on the diet. As an ordinary Filipino with a minimum wage income, how can you promote a plant-based diet to me and my family, since I believe that it's plant-based diet, since it is quite expensive?
maybe I can start responding to that question. When I started doing plant-based diet, it was really difficult. It was in 2012, so vegetarian at first. And it's because of duty that I got this consciousness about what I can do personally to take action to preserve our planet. Because I've been seeing a lot of our kababayans in the Philippines. So duty has been involved in a lot of disaster relief work, and this is something that I've seen myself being part of, taking action locally within myself. So when I started, it was difficult. There was not a lot of restaurants that I can go to, and I don't know much about cooking. And yes, if we compare the prices in Carinderia, it's going to be very overwhelming for a lot of Filipinos. And even if back then, even if I go to Carinderia and order vegetables, for example, there would always be meat in them. So it's kind of take a lot of time in terms of adjustment, but yeah, I had to learn how to cook. And I think as of now, the world is changing, we are all evolving, and it helps to have this kind of forum and to attend these kinds of forums because we get to be part of that raising of consciousness, of awareness. And if we get to that point where everyone is aware that plant-based diet is available, that this is something that we can demand as society, it will make a lot of difference. And I can say that through the years of adopting this lifestyle, it has been easier, it has gotten easier. There are more access and availability of food sources in terms of plant-based diets. Because in the Philippines, actually, we are so used to a lot of occasions where there are meat, right? So even if we go to our friends' houses, they would often serve us with what we call delicious foods. The things we offer our visitors are those food that include meat in them. So during birthday parties, for example, there would always be Shanghai and spaghetti with hot dog and chicken wings. But through the years, we have evolved, and all this food that we call delicious already have an alternative. And thanks to the small entrepreneurs who are taking their small efforts towards supporting this kind of initiative.
Thank you, Ms. Lynette. And that would lead us to a question which is about how do we encourage the government to support these initiatives that help Filipinos change their diet. So, Lynette, maybe you can just continue to expound on what you started. Yeah.
If we're talking about the government, they all have the power actually, but we also have the power to champion this advocacy. And yes, if we consider ourselves a minority, as what Sister Jenny mentioned earlier, if we form this minority, we can also actually be the majority in the future. So minority, we come together and we can form the majority. And this is how we can champion this shift in our lifestyle. So behavioral change actually takes a long journey. It's not easy. But if we can do small efforts, little by little, we can make it happen. And that's how we can create a move in the government. So let's not get tired of doing these small actions, because later on, all these small actions lead to powerful impact. So we can also look back in history. So some of the major points in history actually came from the effort of one person. And this power of one person actually made great impact toward changing policies, changing consciousness. So yes, we are powerful even though we're just one person, and we cannot underestimate that.
Thank you, Ms. Lynette. The next question is for Sister Genty, and this has something to do also with consciousness. So, since change of lifestyle starts with our shifts in consciousness, and that shift can only happen when we take care of our minds. But most of us are in need of healing. Mental health issues prevent us from having the foresight to work at issues of the environment on a long-term basis. So, Sister Genty.
I just want to add one more thing that my sister was sharing, and that is coming as a visitor to the Philippines. I enjoy so much the rich variety of fruits and vegetables that you have here. In England, you can only get them as exotic vegetables that you can have to pay a very high price for. But the local vegetables are very few, very limited. But here you have actually a very beautiful variety to choose from. And so I would encourage you to experiment with all the different things that you can find on YouTube now. The diets that's really, truly very, very good for mind and body and the planet. And in terms of mental health, yes, we're very aware of all the pressures that are applied to human life today. And because of those pressures, like for example, COVID created a huge pandemic of mental health issues. And of course it also just highlighted the fact that we've been sweeping things under the carpet and we haven't been highlighting this aspect of health. And I think today there's a greater awareness. And the most important thing is, if I find that I'm in a downward decline, that my mind is confused or negative all the time, can I seek help? Or if you within your family or your friend circle find that someone is going through that difficult time in which the mind is caught up in a negative spiral, perhaps you can very gently, very sweetly, humbly suggest to that individual that there is professional help available and that they should take that help. But on another level, maybe just a lot of loving care is needed when we see people going through this. And so yes, I agree that it's something that needs to be addressed very much now at the present time.
Thank you, Sister Genty. And the next question is for Dr. Uy. Since in your discussion, Dr. Uy, you talked about decarbonization. And I would like to ask, since decarbonization is a complex subject, it's 70 to 90% in Luzon is powered by coal industries, which is a major contributing factor. What are your thoughts on affected industries such as jobs in the coal industry? How do we transition justly to renewable energy? How can we do decarbonization without abridging the labor sector?
Yes, I think that is one of the big concerns. This is just based on my discussion with an executive of another bank. But she's saying that we're not really that equipped to start renewable energy right now. We'll take some steps. Sorry. Some steps to actually encourage transitioning to renewable energies. One of the things that the government is doing is with regards loans for renewable energy is actually lower compared if you're going to ask for loans for coal, etc. But as mentioned, it could take some time before we can go to renewable energy. So there were talks of changing to nuclear energy. One of the summits, but I don't know if that is actually being discouraged by other countries. But for our government, I think that was one of the trusts. Still, unsure of what to do with changing to renewable energy.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ume. Now, let's go to the last question for our open forum. And we will ask our three speakers to share their thoughts on this. And it's about foresight. So faith teaches us that chaos and destruction is necessary for us to change our vision from current problems to a better world. So how can faith help us to be able to change our vision and help address climate change issues?
I think for me, what I can say is that we should always go back to the values that we hold. Earlier, I left a question to everyone, what values do we hold in our climate action? Because at the end of the day, it all boils down to our beliefs. And if you're going to take values-based approach in dealing with the global problems that we encounter nowadays, our values will really motivate us to move closer to our goals. So it is a driving force. And that's why I believe that we really have to go back and ask ourselves, reflect on it. What values do I hold? Because if it's about equality, about kindness, about love, this will all reflect in the things that we do in the world. So yeah, that's my point and take on this.
Mr. Genti?
I definitely think that faith has a lot to do with, firstly, resilience. At this moment, we need a lot of resilience to be able to cope with all the different issues that are facing us, not just climate change, but also other factors. But I think the power of faith is able to allow me to have that hope and vision for the future that carries me through a difficult time. But I also think that faith teaches me that whatever it is I do is the seed for the future. Every tradition speaks about sowing seeds and how whatever you sow today, you should reap tomorrow. In the East, we call it karma philosophy. In the West, they just talk about seeds in the future and the results of that. It means that if I behave, as my sister said, with kindness and compassion and love and truth, which are the original qualities of the inner being, then my actions are definitely going to create a better world.
Thank you, Sister Genti. Dr.
Sister Jenny, for that. I'm just thinking the reason why climate change does not really have a big impact on us today, because we're talking about 50 to 60 years from now, and a lot of people will think it doesn't affect me at all. So I think if you love your children, if you love the future children of it, if you have a child and you think that child, you think of our younger generation, of those newborn infants, they are the ones who will be experiencing the adverse effects of climate change. So if we look at the small children, if we love them, then we have to prepare a good future for them.
Thank you, Dr. Uli, and a big round of applause to our wonderful speakers who have shared with us the gems of wisdom that help us enlighten and move forward in healing, human well-being, and the environment. So maybe Colin now will be doing a meditation experience. And after the meditation experience, we shall also be listening to a message of thanks. So we call on Sister Rajni, the Daula National Coordinator of the Philippines and Japan, to share with us a meditation experience and a message of thanks after. Let's give her a
Om Shanti, greetings of peace. So let us do a few minutes meditation. Let's create the consciousness as we have been listening to beautiful speeches. Who am I? I am kind, compassionate, a loving being, one who loves the nature, the matter, the whole world, universe. With compassion, with love, we also give gratitude to water, earth, air, fire, all these elements, the gratitude that they have been serving humanity for thousands of years. Now it's our duty to return, to give our return to them. Just being kind. And having that sensitivity that I can contribute my values towards the change in this world. And these values are compassion, kindness, being loving, having determination to bring change in my habits, in my lifestyle. So every day, just immerse these values, thoughts in your consciousness. That I am loving and kind being. Through silence, our energy, the positive energy, the pure thoughts energy will reach to the universe. So let us continue to do every day. That I am contributor in this world, not taker anymore. My life is to give, not to take. I am a giver. Om Shanti. Thank you. So now we have just a few words of thanks. On behalf of Brahma Kumaris Philippines, I'd like to express our heartfelt thanks to Mr. Henry Yunis, President CEO, Chuchi Foundation and his team, and Dr. Titoi of NIH, as we were partnered in this program. And we really say thank you, and we are looking forward to have more programs together so that we can bring the change in our lives and the change in others' lives. Thank you so much.
program, we have gratitude to our distinguished speakers, and may we invite Sister Lila, the chairperson of Brahma Kumaris, Sister Merle, the president of Brahma Kumaris, and Sister Becky, the senior Rajogi and teacher, to give the gifts to our speakers.
So Sister Genti is leaving now for another appointment. So now, everyone is invited for a vegetarian snacks or lunch outside the Harmony Hall. And as you go out, Brahma Kumaris has always had this tradition of giving blessing cards and sweets or toli that we personally cook with love from God. So as you go out, you just pick it along the way and then proceed for your delicious lunch towards Unity Hall. Thank you for your Harmony Hall. So thank you for your participation and giving your time here today. Om Shanti. Okay, as you go out, you will